So since it's 80 years since the surrender of Japan, I've been thinking and watching and reading a lot about the Japanese war crimes and how it really impacted, or I should say, like harmed the people of East to Southeastern Asia. And the sad thing is, fascism is on the rise in Japan, and a lot of politicians this year uh, paid a visit to the Yasukuni War Shrine, which commemorates and like defends. It's an institution that defends the Japanese invasion, and they say it was like a war of liberation. I've been there too. Like not because I agree with them. I went there. I went to their museum to like just to see how their propaganda is taking place, and you know, I just had I wrote at the end when I went there that like there was some notebook or something that people can write to like voice their opinions, and I wrote we should uh, learn from history and not beautify these vicious crimes that Japan committed, something like that. But unfortunately, a lot of right-wing politicians paid a visit to them, and like, you know, what do you say, like it's sampai in Japanese. It's like, you worship the to just like they went to worship the shrine, right? Like because a party named Sanseito, they gained a lot of seats in the election this summer, and the right wing is on the rise in Japan. It's really sad. But one of the things I've been thinking is like the importance of collective liberation and how like history has been rewritten in a way that is like palatable or useful for the West, right? So let me explain. I have been watching this. I watched a couple of videos by, I think this like YouTube channel is affiliated with the Chinese government. I forgot the name of it, but they had like multiple videos highlighting how the brave Chinese fighters uh, took a very important role in defeating the Imperial Japan. And like in the mainstream history books or history discourse in the West, like that kind of facts aren't highlighted enough. Like, oh, America like defeated the evil Nazis, and we, Winston Churchill and UK, US, these countries defeated the Nazis, and that's why we have democracy right now. Woo foo, and like that's kind of the I think like most people have that kind of view. But what we shouldn't forget is, well, like what's not known as much as the fact that US and UK and these European and American um play a role in defeating Nazis is like the Soviets played a role too. Like Soviets, they liberated a lot of the Holocaust, the Jewish people that were uh like facing the genocide, facing the Holocaust. They liberated a lot of Jewish people in the Eastern Europe, and like Soviets played an important role. But what's lesser known is even then like the Soviets' role is the role of the Chinese and Koreans. Like these people also played a very important role in defeating the evil of the axis, the axis that evil axis, like Nazis and Japanese imperial Japan and Mussolini's Italy. They played an important role. I'll probably link a video down below, but a lot of the death, I think if I'm not mistaken, like 70% or something like that of the Japanese Imperial Japan's like loss in terms of like soldiers was killed by the Chinese. And like that's really important, right? Like even like from objective perspective, if you look at the numbers, that led to like the Russians, and like that kind of made Japanese lose a lot of resources in China, and therefore made it easier for the Soviets and the Americans to defeat Japan. And obviously not everything America did is great. Like, they killed a lot of civilians in that path, that in the along the ways when they were trying to defeat the Imperial Japan, which is terrible. Like, even ends don't justify the means, and Nazis Japan, they needed to be defeated. I'm glad they were beaten, but killing civilians isn't the way to go. So there's that. But like that brave Chinese fighters and the Korean fighters and all of these anti-imperial fighters, that's why Japanese people have democracy and freedom today. Like, if Imperial Japan had won the war, we wouldn't be having the freedom right now, and we would be under a very dark, different world right now. Not that right now it's not, but I'm not saying that this world as we have today isn't bad. We literally have a genocide going on in front of our eyes, so that's not good. But it would have been worse if Japan or the Nazis had won. So there's that. And another thing that kind of intertwines with what I just said is the importance of collective liberation. So as I said, like, even if the ends are justified, killing civilians is never justified, and dropping nuclear weapons on bunch of civilians and children, like, that's never justified. But that's what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And also the Japanese people, like, people that were originally from Japan were like put into these internment camps in Canada and the United States, which is also bad. Like, that's ordinary people shouldn't face the consequences of ordinary citizens, I should say, shouldn't bear the responsibility of these evil acts by the government. And even like they weren't even a lot of them weren't even Japanese citizens. Like, they were just descendants of the Japanese that lived in the United States or Canada, but they were put into these concentration camps just because they were Japanese. So what I'm trying to say is that Japanese people have both the history of brutalizing and colonizing other people and being brutalized by different governments. So that's why collective liberation is important, right? Because people, even if you are not the main target by the regime or the oppressors, next, like, tomorrow it could be you, it could be me, it could be you, it could be someone else. Like, we are not all immune from these things, and we should acknowledge that. Like, most people have like some marginalized portion of yourselves, right? Like, I'm Asian, I'm Japanese, and that's like something that is marginal in terms when you are living in like the white dominant country like Canada, where I am now. So that's why collective liberation is always important. So yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about lately. It's also important to just learn about history, because like people, like, unless you actively seek these truths, a lot of these important facts in that like happened in the past just get buried under the radar, right? But you have to like learn, and like, especially as a Japanese person that has a history of Japanese person that which is sorry, especially as someone from a country with colonial past like Japan, like, I have to learn the history so that my own country, own government don't make the same mistakes of brutalizing the other people right now, other people ever again. But fascism is unfortunately on the rise, and the brutalization of the foreigners in Japan is still ongoing. Xenophobia is rampant, and even like people in Okinawa have a lot of like the US bases because of like these ordinary Japanese people's ignorance and not speaking up enough, and you know, a lot of bigotry like misogyny, transphobia, xenophobia, homophobia. These things exist in Japan and all around the world still. So you know, we have to fight back, right? So that's my thought for the 80th anniversary since the end of World War II. Yeah, free Palestine.